stocks bear market / crash indicator CI18 has been triggered with a reading of 103.4%, where a reading of at least 100% means the switch is on, and it's for the first time since February 2020 when it was triggered with a reading of 112%. What is CI18? Crash Indicator version 18 is one of the neural nets that I've been working on as my AI takes baby steps into understanding how to interpret the stock market. Its task is to state what is the current risk of significantly lower stock prices ahead, i.e. that could either mark the start of a bear market or a market crash within the next few weeks. However, it is not a trading signal, as the market will already have fallen somewhat by the time it is triggered, as was the case in late February 2020 when I had already become increasingly bearish on the prospects for the stock market during the preceding month before the CI18 was triggered. The CI18 is an independent indicator that acts as a warning to take a more detailed look at the downside prospects for the stock market, to skew one's analysis in that direction, to increase the probability for greater downside price action, i.e. chart supports that I may have previously thought should hold any decline will now likely break and thus target even lower prices. How low? That needs to be determined through in-depth analysis. In terms of investing and trading, for me it means to seek to sell, if I've not already sold, hedge and short stocks and indices, where my preferred hedging tool at that time was the short stock index futures, so as to capitalize on any drop, delivering fresh funds to buy more AI stocks at deep discounts, just as I did during March 2020. So CI18 is not a sell signal, rather acts as a weighting tool that tips the scales further towards a more bearish slant. As for the CI18 trigger in Feb 2020, as a reminder of the last time the trigger occurred, I had already been bearish on the prospects for the stock market since early February, in large part due to my interpretation of the risks that the virus posed that most in the West largely remained blind to, given that there were no cases and China was suppressing information on the virus. Even the criminals at the WHO painted a benign picture by repeatedly requesting that flights out of China continue so that travellers can continue to spew viral particles across the world, which means the WHO got to have their moment in the sun, their fame, and which the mainstream media wholeheartedly regurgitated because it was contrary to President Trump's halt on flights from China stance. This despite China halting all internal flights to try and prevent the spread of the Wuhan biolab virus leak. Still, I was already bearish whilst the Dow was making new all-time highs in early February, with my expectations then for a 10% drop in the Dow into early to mid-March 2020. Where once CI18 was triggered late February, further contributed towards skewing my bearish expectations lower still, i.e. my analysis of 27th Feb 2020, the coronavirus stocks bear market begins, which sets us up for the mother of all buying opportunities reaching its apex in mid-March, as my analysis of the time illustrated, where nearly every AI tech stock had breached its buying levels by some degree. Looking back today, one can only fantasize of once more having such an opportunity to buy the likes of Google at just near $1,000 and Microsoft $135, AMD at $38, Facebook $146, Amazon $1,600, where at the time I and many patrons dived into a stocks feeding frenzy like piranhas devouring cheap AI tech stocks, expending all available cash on stocks trading at levels well below what I considered as being cheap. Though it was only a few weeks later when some patrons started asking me, should they sell to cash in their 30-40% gains, which at the time I warned would be a big mistake. Instead, it would be well over a year later when I would personally cash in most of my gains, though with the benefit of hindsight, a few patrons have since complained that they followed my lead and sold out, so missed the likes of Nvidia's moonshot and Apple and Microsoft's continuing trends higher. That is the way of life and the markets, where hindsight is always wonderful, though for some strange reason the brokers never let one buy and sell stocks with the benefit of hindsight. Anyway, that's the way of life. And this is why I tend to hold a large amount of cash on my investing accounts, so that I already have limit orders in place to catch the falling knives rather than trying to juggle lots of plates at the same time during a fast moving market panic event. So could we be in for a similar fire sale where once more most of the buying levels are breached by a significant margin? Say Google falling all the way down to $2,400 a share, Apple $120, Amazon at least down to $2,600, Facebook $262. What about Microsoft? Similar, $262. And this video is an excerpt from my recent in-depth analysis that acts as an early warning of the increasing risk of a market panic event. That was first made available to patrons who support my work. So for immediate first access to all of my analysis and trend forecasts, then do consider becoming a patron by supporting my work for just $4 per month, which is nothing for what you get access to. Imagine if you'd bought those AI tech stocks piled in all available cash mid-March 2020. How many times? 140% gain. Something like that's the average gain since on the portfolio. $4, nothing. And you also gain access to my recent extensive analysis and it's epic. Took me a good 2 weeks on how to capitalize on the metaverse, which is basically another word for VR and gaming, but they now call it the metaverse. Something that I've been banging on about for years, but they call it metaverse. It's VR and gaming. VR is going to be big. It's the next evolution from smartphones. And Facebook changed their name to Meta because of that. Because Facebook want to make sure they're positioned for the next big revolution, which is the shift from smartphones to virtual reality headsets. There's augmented reality, but I think that's going to be a stopgap along the way. Anyway, that is extensive analysis, as you can see from this list. That has been, again, first made available to patrons who support my work. So do consider becoming a patron for $4 per month. And then you also get access to my other extensive analysis, which is on AI tech stocks and their buying levels, both current and the one I did a few weeks ago. All come together to present the current state of the tech stock portfolio, as well as lessons, investing lessons, Bitcoin and the crypto markets, and of course I've extensively covered the implications of the inflation mega trend. I've been warning for over a year to expect high inflation and what you should do to capitalize on it, such as, for instance, if you're going to buy a big ticket item, do it now, sooner rather than later. This is why I bought all of my big ticket items before this surge in inflation. Anyway, all of that was first made available to patrons who support my work. So do consider becoming a patron by supporting my work, which is $4 a month. And my schedule of analysis includes a look at the housing markets, UK, US, Canada, China, because if you're not aware, China property market appears to be collapsing, but data out of China is weak. But the likes of Evergrande, which rather than being the canary in the coal mine, is the coal mine, just exploded. And I've been warning of this since July, of the risks of financial crisis 2.0. that is now starting to become manifest, and my extensive analysis on how to get rich, real hardcore analysis that I've been working on for a good 9 months, that I aim to post this month, which will be exclusive to patrons only. And of course my latest analysis, which is on the high risk stocks portfolio, a quarterly update of where they stand and what I'm doing and what I'm going to do in terms of limit orders, positioning to profit from the unloved biotech sector mainly, and some meta stocks in there as well, small time stocks. Then further on I'm going to be looking at the US dollar, British pound, and maybe gold. You want to be in cryptos rather than gold. Anyway, all of that is my forthcoming analysis. So do consider becoming a patron by supporting my work for just $4 per month. I hope you enjoy the Christmas holidays and you don't get too disrupted by Omicron noise. But I won't comment on that because you know the way YouTube is.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and all lang syne? For all lang syne, my dear, for all lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for all lang syne. For all lang syne, my dear, for all lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for all lang syne. For all lang syne, my dear, for all lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for all lang syne.
Yeah, the reflection.